In a rural area, in a house, geologist Abby was spending time with her older sister Beth. They had recently lost their mother, so both were supporting each other to handle their emotions and get through the grief. But the layers of sorrow had not ended. Beth was diagnosed with advanced stage leukemia. No doctor could treat her because nothing could be done. Still, Abby was not ready to give up. She had heard about a foreign clinic where treatment was done using less ethical methods. To send Beth there, Abby had to take a very risky job to gather money. Sometime later, Abby reached the Georgian Caucasus near the border of Russia. She was hired by a private metal mining company to find uranium. Her father did not like this job. He thought Abby's career could be much better, but Abby was very restless to save her sister. She even asked her boss for an advance payment, but the boss said he could not give money until she found something. Abby and her colleague Sergei searched for uranium for a long time, but they found nothing. They had to stay in the designated areas. But Abby decided to continue her search in the forest. Sergei warned her that it could be dangerous, but Abby took his gun and said, "You go, I will search alone." In the forest, there were many strange sounds that scared Abby at first, but slowly she calmed herself and found a very strange black stone. Returning to headquarters, Abby did many tests and found that the stone's temperature was very high, but she still could not identify it. Her happiness suddenly broke with a phone call. Her father told her they were bringing Beth back from the clinic so that she could spend her last days peacefully with her loved ones. Abby was against this decision. She said, "I will come home and handle everything." At that moment, the building shook and the lights flickered. Sometime later, Abby packed her things and told Sergei to take her to the airport. Abby got into the helicopter and started talking to the pilots. The pilots told her they would fly near the border to remind the Russians that this valley belongs to them. After a few hours, Abby was surprised to see birds even at such a high altitude. But when the helicopter changed course, she realized they were not birds. They were mysterious black shadows, making crackling sounds. The pilot said, "It is coming closer." Then the helicopter started shaking, and the black shadow surrounded the windows and suddenly disappeared. After this, all the helicopter systems went down, and the radio also stopped. They needed to land immediately, but the engine was also off. Abby fastened her seatbelt and focused on her breathing as the helicopter's speed and altitude decreased. She thought about her sister and closed her eyes so she would not see the helicopter crash. In unconsciousness, Abby dreamed she was telling her father, "Don't do anything drastic, I will be back soon." Finally, Abby woke up injured in the wreckage of the helicopter. She saw part of the helicopter on fire. Even worse, one pilot had died. Abby checked the other pilot and asked him to apply pressure with a bandage on his injury. Then she went outside and shouted for help, but no one came. When she returned to the helicopter, the pilot taught her to use the emergency radio, but no matter how much she tried, there was no response. Then Abby looked at the map and calculated that the nearest road was 60,000 kilometers to the south. She decided to break several boxes and make big fires so that someone could see her from a distance. The next morning, Abby found that the second pilot had also died. She felt in panic, crying that she was stuck alone in the wilderness. At night, trying to sleep in the helicopter, she dreamed of Beth and her weak health, which made her wake up. She went outside to warm herself near the fire, but her fire had gone out. Instead of giving up, Abby collected all useful items from the helicopter like a gun and flares. Wearing enough clothes, she tried to find the south road using a compass. As she walked away from the helicopter, she heard static on the radio. She immediately ran back, but nothing in the helicopter was working. When she heard the static again, she realized it was coming from the radio attached to the pilot's belt. Unfortunately, when she tried to use it, the battery ran out. She took the helicopter manual and learned the positions of all cables and chargers. Abby charged the radio and waited, continuously looking at the mysterious stone. Finally, the radio worked, and Abby made contact with an American pilot, John, whose plane had also crashed in this area. John's legs were trapped and his antenna was broken. Abby knew she could fix the antenna and call for help. She asked John, "Where are you?" John explained, "I can see a lake." Abby found him on the map and then started a new journey to reach John. John kept saying, "Don't do this, it's a dangerous area," but Abby ignored him. While walking, John talked to her and asked about her work. Abby, while climbing a hill, said, "The money is for my sister, so I had to stop and handle my feelings." When John said this was a 1 in a million chance, Abby felt encouraged and kept moving forward. While climbing, Abby thought that Beth had once said there was no need to fight anymore and she should keep moving. Abby told John, "No one is fighting for Beth." John thought how lucky Abby was to have a sister who gave her so much support. Finally, Abby reached a place where climbing was difficult and she had to change her whole direction. While changing the path, she did not see the nearby black stones. In the new area, Abby crossed the hill and reached the forest where she would spend the night. John said he no longer felt pain because he could not feel his lower body. Abby lit a fire and made a temporary shelter with some wood, but it started to rain and the fire went out. Still, Abby felt something warm in her bag. She remembered it was the same mysterious stone. She took it out and touched it with her bare hands, and its surface reacted in a strange way. John said, "You should not be ashamed of your work." Abby realized he was speaking from military experience. In the morning, Abby continued her journey and reached a snow-covered valley. Strong winds made her colder, and she fell many times. When Abby found a river, she stopped and filled her water bottle. A few hours later, she found another mountain range around her. No better route appeared on the map, so she had to climb up. After walking a lot, Abby tried to climb but immediately fell. John said, "Go back, you cannot save everyone." Angry, Abby said, "Everyone stop stopping me. I need courage and encouragement." Hesitant, John said, "It's your decision. Good luck." Then Abby took off her gloves and started climbing again. Now she could hold better and slowly moved upward. After some time, she reached an area with almost no place to step. When she told John, he said, "It's a shame, you were one of my favorites," and ended the call. Abby tried calling him again, confused, but there was no answer. Then Abby took a tool and put it in the stone, but it fell. She paused for a moment, took a deep breath, and thought. It reminded her of the mysterious stone. Her mind remembered when the doctor said miracles do not happen, but now a miracle was happening. Just by moving her hand, the stone's shape changed. Abby tied a rope to the stone and stuck it into the mountain wall to use it as leverage. Now she could step safely and climb the last area to reach the top. The rope pulled the stone and brought it back. At the same time, Abby saw the mysterious shadow flying in the sky, making crackling sounds. Abby took out binoculars to see distant lights and found a military base. She collected wood and grass and made a big fire to attract attention. She also made arrows from stones to show direction. A few hours later, John contacted her on the radio and said, "You should not reveal your identity. This area is controlled by Russians. If they see your signal, they will come to kill, not help." Hearing this, Abby panicked so much that she slipped on a rocky slope and injured her leg. Tired of John scolding her, Abby turned off the radio and treated her injury. Then she heard radio static and saw a soldier patrolling the area. She immediately ran. Walking was difficult with the injury and snow, so she used a wooden stick for support. After crossing the forest, she reached some old, ruined buildings and went inside to rest and hide. Inside the building, many broken things and family photos were scattered, showing that Russians had destroyed them. Abby checked every room and drawer and found some items to make fire, along with some rotten bread that made her feel sick. Using the plane's first aid kit, she bandaged her hands and injected expired medicine into her stomach. Before sleeping, she looked at Beth's photo and thought about how much her sister must be in pain. That night, Abby dreamed of happy days with Beth and the days spent in the hospital. Beth had been tired in the clinic and wanted to spend her last day with family, but Abby had forced her to stay. Before going for the new job, Beth had said that Abby was not doing this for her. It was for herself. The next morning, Abby woke up to the sound of the radio. Looking outside, she panicked, seeing a soldier approaching. She quickly closed the door and hid under the window, covering her mouth. The soldier quickly looked around, but luckily did not see Abby and left. While the soldier checked other windows, Abby carefully used her stick to reach her bag and took out a gun, but the magazine fell. The noise caught the soldier's attention, and he tried to open the door but failed. When the soldier looked for another entrance, Abby readied her gun. Soon, the soldier found her and raised his weapon, saying something in Russian. Abby panicked again and opened fire. The bullet hit his weapon and then his leg, causing him to fall. Then Abby took the soldier's gun and bag while he kept repeating the name Ivan. Abby put the weapon down to show she did not want to harm him and opened the bag. She found a torch, cigarettes, and the same black stone as her own. Then John's voice came from the soldier's radio. "You were one of my favorites." The soldier confirmed his name was Ivan. Abby panicked and realized they had both been deceived. The voice then said, "Wouldn't you like to see Beth again?" And the connection ended. Abby apologized to the soldier and bandaged his leg, laying him on a sofa. She said she would find the radio signal and wanted the soldier to tell his officers at the base not to shoot if they saw her. But she wasn't sure how much the soldier understood. They crossed the forest together, stumbling because of injuries. When they stopped to rest, Abby took out the stone and heard crackling sounds in the sky. She realized the same stone had attracted the shadow that had caused the helicopter crash and disrupted the radio transmission. This was also why the helicopter radio had started working again when she began moving away. Angry, Abby threw the stone and screamed. Then they began crossing the snow-covered valley. Every step shifted the snow, and they realized they were walking on top of the lake's ice. Abby kept distance from the soldier to avoid breaking the ice. Suddenly, she heard the crackling sound again, and when she turned, the soldier was gone. Abby fell in the snow while searching for him, but luckily caught the surface and struggled out. The wind blew hard. Visibility dropped. She shouted for help, but kept moving. Eventually, she reached the edge of the forest and found a cigarette left by the soldier. Exhausted, she took off her wet clothes and lay in her sleeping bag to keep warm. Then John's voice came through the radio again. He said he had gone through something similar. Angry, Abby threw the radio, but she still listened to John's story. His plane had crashed, and he had seen his team die one by one. Her heart slowed, thinking her end had come too, but in the last moment, she found deliverance. Abby fell asleep and dreamed of happy days with Beth again. She woke up when she heard the sound of a helicopter. She ran quickly into the forest to get attention, but they did not see or hear her, and the helicopter flew away. The cold began to affect Abby badly. She fell to her knees and heard Beth's voice saying, "Go home." She fainted and fell into a hole that led to a cave. Abby's body rolled on hard rocks and fell into a small pond. Nearby floated John's decayed body, covered with the mysterious black stone. The pond's surface also had the black substance, which tried to enter Abby's body. She realized the stone acted like an identity, using John's voice from 65 years ago to trap Abby and the soldier. When Abby woke up, she was sitting on the ground. Rocks floated around her. A unit used John's voice and said, "You did it. I feared you would end up like the others." Abby accused it of causing the helicopter crashes and wanted to know why she was brought here. The unit said that all decisions that brought her here were hers alone. The floating rocks took the shape of half-human bodies. The voice explained that John had decided to become the body of the unit to survive. Now Abby was given the same choice. Abby stepped back and refused, saying she only wanted to go home. The voice said she was already at home, and Beth's house appeared behind her. An invisible force pushed her into the house, where piles of black stones were present. The unit said she feared death, and to overcome it, her devotion was needed. Abby tried to escape room by room and found Beth standing outside. She ran out immediately, and Beth held her hand. Suddenly, Abby woke up in her sister's house and found Beth completely healthy. In the background, the crackling sound could still be heard. Abby hugged Beth and cried, but she remembered the hospital scene and realized it was all the illusion of the unit. She accepted that she would have to let her sister go. Abby apologized to Beth for pushing her beyond her limits and said her final farewell. When Abby was about to leave the house, the unit's voice on the radio tried to stop her, but Abby refused and said she had learned her lesson. Without death, there is no life. Beth also tried to make her stay, but Abby opened the door and went out into the snowy storm shouting for help. Then Abby woke up in the sleeping bag and remembered she had a flare. She quickly lit it and the helicopter returned and rescued her. For the next 2 days, Abby recovered in the hospital. When she woke up, she was at Sergei's and her grandmother's apartment. Sergei wanted her to rest, but Abby wanted to go home. He took her to the airport. Sometime later, Abby and her father met Beth at her home, where a nurse was taking care of her. Beth did not have much time left. Abby and her father went outside to express their emotions. In the evening, the nurse said the time had come. Abby and her father sat by Beth's bed and comforted her, and Beth peacefully passed away.